Hello everyone and welcome to the TF Files show with your only host Cameron Aesop, and today we're going to be talking about Transformers The Last Night, but more specifically on the recent IMAX poster on the big shield, because well, I wasn't originally going to talk about this, but when I looked at it more and more, there was actually a lot of stuff that could be said about this, springing out theories and all this kind of stuff, so let's just dive straight onto it. Okay, so here it is, the IMAX poster in its true glory. Now if you look at the bottom, you'll notice, well, it's very clearly it's Optimus Prime and Megatron. Now if you look at the Megatron design, he looks just like how he did in his original Cybertronian mode in the first film, because obviously this is going to be about the past, because this isn't really spoilers what I'm going to talk about now, it's just about what's going to happen in the film, so you can turn it off if you want, but it's really, there's nothing to talk about within the topic I'm going to say. It's basically the film's going to explore Optimus Prime and Megatron's origins, and I believe in a very different way from what we've seen before. So obviously the shield kind of gives us a lot to go on that, a lot of springing theories and everything. Of course, Megatron in the recent film and the recent trailers that we've seen him, that his armor looks very similar to obviously Optimus Prime, because well, the theory is that obviously Megatron was originally one of the knights, and this is where the sort of theory starts shooting up now. Now if you notice on the right, obviously Optimus Prime's design looks very similar to what he is now, except there's a lot of Earth parts removed. You know, I feel like that in the past what we're going to see, it's obviously not going to be motion, it's actually going to be real sort of CGI and flashbacks we'll see. Optimus Prime, the knight sort of armor he had then was very similar to what his original design is, that obviously because he just scanned it in the fourth film, and maybe that's some sort of representation, because obviously it wasn't just some random, you know, change, you know, obviously that obviously may play a big part to Optimus Prime's sort of design that he reverted back to, and obviously because obviously in the fourth film Optimus Prime was angry, so this is possibly a hint to why Optimus Prime chose this specific design in that particular motion. I mean, I don't know, obviously I'm just going off here, but the design is very similar to what it looks like, but it'll be in the past as well, so maybe it'll be something like that, and then maybe something along the lines is what makes him sort of go back to the model that we saw in the first film. I just think that Michael Bay and the writers kind of regret not making the original Cybertronian modes a little bit more iconic to the look, because in the past they've always been similar to what they are on their Earth modes, just a little bit different, and of course people had a hard time believing of which is which, you know, Optimus Prime, Ironhide, which is a model, because they all kind of just look like, well, just metal. They didn't really have any distinct look to them, and I can only assume that they won't use the Transformers 4 model, but you can never know. But just looking at this design, it seems like that in the past Optimus Prime had a similar mode to what he is now, but then ditched it and then went to that original that we saw in the first film. So there you can see above them there is the three-headed dragon and a weird Decepticon symbol in the middle. Now this is where the theories start springing, because well, let's think about it. People are obviously going to go at me in the comments saying, oh, that shape just looks so similar to Unicron, and I do believe that Unicron is a big part of the lore. I just personally don't believe he's going to be in this film. At least he's going to be hinted at, kind of like in Marvel what they've done with Thanos, and then obviously with DC with Darkseid in the recent DC films. You know, it's obviously leading up to something. I just don't think this is a part of it yet. This is more of a prediction from the past that's happening now, because if you look very closely you'll see planet Earth, and then above it you'll see the sort of formation. So maybe the creators or whichever, they've kind of like wanted this to happen for a very long time. Now I don't think in Prime they're going to go with the route, if Unicron is obviously going to be the big baddie, that he's like Earth, you know, the core of it, and then because obviously Transformers films, they love human characters, and they're not going to wipe out an entire planet. I do believe we could possibly see something like that, and maybe that'll be the big gas in the theatres where Transformers fan goes, oh my god, it's Unicron. But obviously, you know, this is obviously sort of leading toward that. Maybe it'll start to something, but then what's that big giant planet thing? I believe that's like the sort of engine that's sort of forming Earth together, or something like that. And obviously Optimus Prime going evil, he tries to stop this, but then something happens, because obviously the slogan says every legend has its secret. And then when you look at this model with obviously Megatron and the Decepticon symbol in front, Optimus Prime was probably a part of something in the past, which is probably something Prime tried to get out of in the past, and probably that's why he ditched the whole knights and stuff like that. Obviously this is just theories, but it's just really something interesting to talk about. But as I said, yeah, I do believe Unicron will be a big part of it, but this is like a slow sort of lead up, you know what I mean? And they are going to explore Optimus Prime and Megatron's origins. I really hope we go into detail about that, because if it turns out to be the case that Optimus Prime and Megatron was, you know, they did a lot of bad stuff in the past or something, and Optimus Prime either went good, or I don't believe Optimus Prime was beginning like evil. I don't think they'll go with that, because Optimus Prime has always been like the Orion Pax, you know, the young librarian, and then he becomes this warrior. Who knows, they could do something different, and maybe that's the sort of big core hit moment that fans gasp and probably outraged of because they don't like that. But it would be an interesting direction that Optimus Prime has this dark past, and this new sort of future he has. It led to a good life of obviously leading the Autobots against Megatron, and maybe it was just the Decepticons from the beginning, and obviously Optimus Prime stopped that and decided to reform, Autobots and to go against Megatron. And this whole legacy of a Knights thing was either stopped or something, and now it's coming back to haunt Prime. And obviously he went off to find the creators, so maybe that will give him more answers as to why this whole thing's happening. I mean, it's obviously, this is just theories. Don't take this as confirmation. I take a few bits of it as, oh, I can see that happening in the film, but still, it's very interesting because the whole Earth formation, it's very much like a prediction. You see Earth, and then you see the formation. It's like a prediction, basically. But within the Transformers lore, Earth and Cybertron have always been very much linked, and I think this is just sort of a big emphasis on it. And I feel like this will be the first film where we really get a lot of Transformers stuff. Like, we'll get a lot of lore, a lot of backstory, a lot of information that will either make us look forward to the next films or make us feel worried for the next films, because I'm really curious on where it's going to go. Obviously, this is the big film for launching this universe of films that are going to come after this. So it certainly is interesting to talk about. There's a lot of stuff that can be put into play here with the creators, and obviously Optimus Prime finding them, and then Megatron coming back. Obviously Galvatron, either my theory that he finds the ship, lockdown ship, and he reforms back to Megatron, because that might shoot something in his head of like, I am Megatron, why am I taking on this human name they gave me, or something like that. But it's very interesting. I'm very curious on how the Optimus Prime and Megatron's origins will be explained. A part of me wants it to be something different and not the whole Orion Pack story, and I don't know, I feel like I've seen it a lot. I always try something new. But of course, people are going to be outraged either way. But for me personally, it'd just be something new to explore. Optimus Prime was originally this sort of, not necessarily bad dude, but he was just sort of misguided. And the whole standing next to Megatron with this only Decepticon logo only, it's very interesting. Yeah, so there guys, that's pretty much what I've got to say. This is pretty much going to round off on this TFL's episode. I hope you've enjoyed, and of course, share me your theories in the comment section below. There's a lot to talk about on this Shield, more than I actually thought, but it's a lot to sort of sink in, really. So anyway guys, hope you've enjoyed this TFL's episode, and until the next one, subscribe here. Goodbye everyone.